We are live. Good evening, and welcome to another episode of the TGBA Basketball Academy podcast. Tonight, we have a special guest. His name is Randy Monroe. And Randy Monroe, he hails from North Philadelphia. And where it all began is at the Empire on Broad Street. And most of you probably don't even know what the Empire on Broad Street is, but it was the Roman Catholic High School. That's where Randy attended from 1978 to 1981. During that time, he played for the legendary Speedy Morris. He was an All-American. He went on to take his playing career to Philadelphia University. At that time was Philadelphia Textile. Later on, he finished his career at Cheyney State University, where at that point, he was one of the all-time greats at that school, as well as Philly U. And Randy took his next steps after finishing his career at Cheyney State as a player into coaching. Let me just give you a little bit background about him, okay, with his coaching career. He's coming to you tonight, y'all, with a plethora of knowledge and wisdom and experience as a coach on so many different levels. This is going to be a spectacular night as it relates to real life, real time advice and experience coming from someone who did it at every level at the highest point. All right. So his coaching career began in 1985 at Cheyney State University. And then in 1988, he joined LaSalle University basketball staff under the legendary Speedy Morris. During his time at LaSalle, he had the opportunity of recruiting and coaching some great players: Lionel Simmons, Doug Overton, Randy Woods, Bobby Johnson, just to name a few guys who went on to play professional basketball at the highest levels. After that, he moved on to Vanderbilt. Okay, spent the year there at Vandy, and then his direction took him to Maryland, UMBC, the University of Maryland in Baltimore County. He spent his first 10 years as an assistant coach at UMBC, and in 2004, he became the head coach. And from 2004 to 2012, which was about 8 years, he was the head coach at UMBC, University of Maryland, Baltimore County. At that time in 2008, he was coach of the year. They played in the American East Conference. They were the regular season champs. They got an automatic bid to the NCAAs because they won their conference. They were the conference champs as well. I believe it was a first round that they went up against the Hoyas of Georgetown, where they played in Raleigh, North Carolina, in front of a 20,000 seat arena, packed, national television, CBS Sports, in March Madness. A phenomenal time for that program. And I want to also remind you that was so monumental because it was the first time that the University of Maryland, Baltimore County had gotten an NCAA bid to the big dance, okay, as a Division I program. And Randy Monroe was the catalyst and the leader of that particular team during that time. Later on, UMBC had an opportunity in 2018 to upset the number 1 seed, Virginia, in the tournament as well, if you recall that time. So UMBC have had some phenomenal teams and some great times on the national stage. And then we want to say after that, he went back and he's decided to coach at a high school, Brandywine High School in Delaware. Then he went from there to St. Joe's Prep in Philadelphia. And he joined his old coach again, the legendary Speedy Morris. From there, Randy went to Jefferson University in 2020. And, at that point, he coached there to the current present time. Um, and so if we would calculate those years, we're talking about 35 years of coaching experience at the high school level, Division II level, and Division I level as assistant coach and head coach. All right. So that gives you a little bit of background of who you have before you tonight. And so we're gonna jump right in. And Randy, um, if you could share with us, um, let's talk about your philosophy because I mean, with all of that, you know, that you have walked through over these years, there's a philosophy I know that you have. So, how has your coaching philosophy actually evolved from early high school coaching to your time as a Division I head coach?
Well, Tony, first of all, let me just say thank you for having me on tonight. I really do appreciate it. I mean, I should have you. I should pay you to be my PR guy, man, because you just did a phenomenal job introducing me and letting everyone know my background.
Appreciate
When you
that.
talk about a coaching philosophy, it's something that you really have to sit back and take your time and examine what it is you want to do, how you want to do things. And for me, um, being that I had played at my coaching philosophy started when I was probably an assistant coach. But
Mhm,
for me, my philosophy was very simple, but yet impactful. It was to teach and impact the lives of young people,
mhm,
and and you impact them by being honest with them, by being caring. Um,
mhm,
I'd say the coach is like the Tootsie Roll Pop. He has a lot of different roles, and that Tootsie Roll Pop,
mhm.
it's all the good things wrapped up in one. You're a father figure to some. You're a
Yeah,
counselor to others. You're a
yeah.
teacher to others. You're an advisor. You're
Mhm,
so many different things. And you
mhm,
know, to me, I knew that when I wanted to get into coaching, my my job was to go and impact the lives of young people, not just through basketball. Basketball was important. We love basketball. I love basketball, but I love the
mhm,
fact that I can take a youngster, bring him into our family,
mhm,
because that's what, when you talk about philosophy, to me, you're bringing a young man into your immediate family, and
mhm,
you're helping that young man grow and develop in so many different ways, not just basketball, but you're trying to help that young man develop
mhm,
into just that, a young man.
mhm,
He may come in as a boy, sometimes immature, but yet through your nurturing and mentoring and guidance and
mhm,
love, tough
mhm,
love.
mhm,
Um, just to give you an example, I'm the godfather of three of my former players' children, and
mhm.
the godfather of one of my former assistant coaches' children. So that says a
Mhm.
little something right there.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm, mhm,
it's to be able to connect with young people. And
mhm.
so that was my philosophy.
Okay. You
And I'm sorry.
No, no, no. I was going to say one thing you said, Randy, that was I thought was really huge. You used the word family, okay? And when the average person thinks about basketball, thinks about coaching, and I don't know if they're thinking that okay, these guys or these girls that I'm spending time with, I'm coaching, um, they're coming into a fold of a family, and we're you know, we're gonna coach this thing, and we're gonna treat one another as if we are family, true family, and tap into those other modalities, man, that is beyond the game or what's out there on the hardwood. Is beyond that. I thought that was really huge and significant, man. Because I don't think that all coaches have that kind of mentality or philosophy when they approach coaching.
Well, and that's true. Let's keep it real. A lot of guys like to sell you the Brooklyn Bridge, and
Mm-hmm.
if you're not paying attention, if I always told youngsters too when I was recruiting them, you want
Mm-hmm.
to make sure you know as much about that staff, that entire coaching staff. You got
Mm-hmm.
to know a lot about them. You just can't get enamored with the schedule that they play, the conference that they play in. You're going to
Mm-hmm.
be living with, you're going to be now, obviously, things have changed a bit over the last few years, but
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be with that coach and his
Mm-hmm.
staff, okay, for an X amount of time. So it would behoove you to find out as much information as you possibly can about the head coach, about his assistants.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times families don't do that. They don't do the homework on those kinds of things, and
Mm-hmm.
they sometimes you get caught up because, and I get it. It's the emotion of someone showing interest to you,
Mm-hmm.
and so what happens is you get caught up, and you don't think about those things until something drastic happens throughout the
Mm-hmm.
your tenure at that particular school, and then all of a sudden you want to pack your bags and go elsewhere. But
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's very important for families to do that, like to know as much about those schools. And I think that will help you make a better decision. And
Mm-hmm.
you will know through your constant communications with the the coaches and that staff, you'll
Mm-hmm.
know and you'll get a feel because your
Mm-hmm.
heart and your gut won't lie to you. I always tell young people that your heart and your gut won't lie to you, and
Mm-hmm.
and it will only lie to you if you have preconceived notions that you want to be elsewhere. And to me, it was very important to really make a youngster feel at home, and
Mm-hmm.
not just feel home, but there was a connection there. I use that word because that's so big.
Okay.
Being able to connect with that young man, being able to connect with his family, being able
Mm-hmm.
to connect with his girlfriend. Like I want them all to know that, hey, this is what this is going to be like at UMBC when you
Right.
coached. Okay,
Right.
and
Right.
a lot of a lot of families, particularly the mothers and the fathers, they appreciated that, and they
Mm-hmm.
trusted me with their sons.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Um, so when we take a look at the differences between coaching at the high school level and versus coaching at a Division I college, um, you know, what was some of the significant differences? I'm talking about not only on the court but also off the court as well. When you look back and reflect on being a high school coach and being a Division I coach, and what is the difference? Because you got people that's going to be listening to this broadcast, and they're listening, at this point now.
Sure.
Um, that's at every level, high
Mhm.
school level, attaining or aspiring to go to the next level, whether it's D2 or D1,
Right.
and then you got some who's trying to translate that information back to some of the younger guys.
Right. Right. Well,
Yeah.
I had to, for me, Tony, uh, I became a coach because of my high school coach, Speedy Morris. Okay,
Mhm.
who was like not only my coach, but he's like a second father to me, and
Mhm.
he still is to this day. We still have a
Mhm.
very impactful, special bond, and
Mhm.
so I knew that when I started playing college basketball, I knew for myself, for me, I wasn't going to. I didn't have any interest in going overseas to play professional basketball. I wanted to get into coaching. And I
Mhm.
figured high school, being able to coach on a high school level, to get my feet wet, being able to, work on my philosophy of impacting young people and teaching the fundamentals of basketball, because we
Mhm.
know that's where it all starts.
Mhm.
But then I knew, I knew this, that if I was going to make a living coaching high school basketball, then I was going to starve.
Mhm.
So I had to make a decision and say, if I want to do this on a full time basis, where I can really make a difference with with coaching basketball and teaching basketball,
Mhm.
teaching young people and making that
Mhm.
impact on them, I had to go to the college level.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so I
Mhm.
was blessed to with being fortunate enough to be around good coaches.
Mhm.
Coach, the late Charles Songster, God rest his soul, gave me my
Mhm.
opportunity at Cheney.
Mhm.
And what happened at Cheney was my first year, we ended up going to the Final Four.
Right.
So
Right.
that was, and we had an awesome team. We had two All Americans and Ron
Mhm.
Barnett from Philadelphia and Clarence
Mhm.
Bootney Green from Washington
Mhm.
D.C., along with
Mhm.
Wilbur Jones and
Mhm.
Anthony, the late Anthony Robinson,
Mhm.
Kevin Medley, uh,
Mhm.
Greg Kelly. We had
Mhm.
Byron Joyner, who was our point guard. We
Mhm.
just had a phenomenal team. They called us the Iron Nine, and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so I was able to to be fortunate enough to be on. But my first year as an assistant coach, we ended up going to the Final Four, and
Wow.
and
Mhm.
so uh, and then my second year at Cheney was we did not we were good, but we ended up falling off a little bit. But we still ended up being 16-9, one of the top teams in
Mhm.
our side of the Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference. Uh,
Mhm.
we ended up being one of the best teams there. But
Mhm.
it gave me a chance to do what I wanted to do. And I became, I'm going to go take a step back. I became a full time
Mhm.
assistant at
Mhm.
LaSalle. And
Mhm.
I'll never forget this when I just graduated from Cheney and
Mhm.
I was coming, I was working at Germantown Friends basketball camp. I never
Okay.
forget that. And I had just got off of an 11 p.m. to 9 a.m. shift working at Glen Mills. And now, just to tell you how crazy I am, I go and work a basketball camp from
Right.
9:45 till 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay.
Right. 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 Right.
But, Tony, when you love
Yeah.
this thing
Yeah.
that we do, it's not work,
Mhm.
it's your
Right.
passion.
It's
So
your passion. Yep.
I
Mhm.
went from working with Alfred Johnson, who was the head coach at
Mhm.
Germantown Friends at that time. And I never
Yes. Yes.
forget, I never forget
Mhm.
uh,
Mhm.
Coach Morris driving over in
Mhm.
his car from LaSalle over to Germantown Friends. And,
Mhm.
uh, and one of the counselors said, "Hey, Coach Morris is outside. He's looking for you." So
Mhm.
I said, "Wow." I said, "Okay." I thought maybe he's
Mhm.
wanted to come over and have lunch with me at Germantown Friends camp,
Right. Right.
But
Right.
he he came over and
Yeah.
offered me the
Mhm.
full time job uh,
Wow. Mhm.
at
Mhm.
LaSalle because
Mhm.
Fran Dunphy had left
Mhm.
and he had taken the assistant coach's position at the
Mhm.
University of Penn.
Mhm.
He was also the assistant athletic director at the University of Penn. So,
Gotcha.
Coach had promised me, when he was the women's coach
Mhm.
at LaSalle, he said, "Listen," he said, "if I get a full time men's position, I would like to hire you. Would you be interested?" And I said, "Oh, without question,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that would be ideal." So
Yeah. Yeah.
he always kept that promise. He said, "I'm definitely
Mm.
going to hire you,"
Mm.
uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so, he was, "I believe in you. I
Mhm.
know you'll do a great job.
Mhm.
If you work as hard as a basketball player as you did for me, and you do that as a college coach, I know you're going to be successful." And
Yeah.
and that's what happened for me. So
Mhm.
it was such a a great experience to be able
Mhm.
to coach. You know, when you asked me
Mhm.
what the difference was, for
Mhm.
me, that was the difference. Now, if high
Mhm.
school Tony had would pay a little bit more, and it could
Mhm.
be a full time situation, I would definitely be on the high school level.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Hey, I get it. I get it. We got to earn a living. We got to earn a
Yes,
living. You know what I
right,
mean? And
right,
being able to work and do what you like to do, your passion, full time, and get paid to do that, man,
sure.
you got to go to at least the college level. You know?
Absolutely, and it's not, and it's not like work. It's not
Right,
like
right,
work.
right, right,
It's
right, right,
something
right.
that you love doing.
You just love doing it, man. It's like the
Mhm.
time just goes by. It doesn't even seem like you're working. You're not thinking about that. You're just in the moment. You're in your element, you know,
Absolutely,
and
absolutely,
you just doing what you love to do, and you get paid to do it, you
sure.
know. And you know that's awesome, man. And I tell you what, you know, and the point I want to raise because I know there's a lot of parents, a lot of young people watching this podcast. And if you notice, uh, audience, what Randy said, his former high school coach, admired him and saw the work ethic, the character, and all those attributes that would be necessary to be a asset to his collegiate staff. Now, LaSalle University has a rich history at a
Hmm.
Division One level. And for him to get that position and offer, he actually sought out after him and asked him over there where he was at the camp. So a coach is not going to do that if you haven't been doing all those things the right way. So he had a chance to watch him grow and mature through his program at the high school level. And as he went through college, and as he knew right away when he finished his college career that he wanted to go into coaching. So my point is, don't never let your guard down. You never know who's watching you and what opportunities may full circle come your way if you keep the work ethic, the character building, and the relationships as you go through your high school career. You understand? So I just wanted to make that point there because it's so important. And he is the example of that, sitting here before you to let you know how that all came about. He's not going to come and offer him a full-time position at LaSalle University, uh, without knowing his character and all these other things that he brings to the table. Okay. That's just not going to happen. All right.
Absolutely.
So with that being said, Randy, I want to shift over a little bit because we've been talking about high school and college a little bit and how you got started and some of the people you learned from. So let's talk about building teams and developing players. Okay, so how do you approach player development and what strategies do you use to help athletes reach their full potential?
Well, player development is huge.
Mhm.
And I will say this, when you talk about program building and strategy, the one thing is when you talk about building a program, Tony,
Mhm.
you have to include your staff. Like for me,
Mhm.
my job as a coach was not about me. I was the leader, but I wanted to make sure that my staff was taken care of. And so what I did was, you know, I would pay for guys to go to the Final Four
Mhm.
because I wanted them to go have a good time and also have an opportunity to if they were able to connect with somebody and they were able to get a job in, let's say, the Atlantic 10 conference or the Big East. Hey, I'm happy for them. I want them to take that opportunity. And if
Mhm.
they came to me and said, Coach, I think I want to be able to um, be, get be a head coach on a Division 3 level, Division 2 level. I
Mhm.
always had that conversation with my
Mhm.
guys at the end of the year. Hey, what can I do to help you? Uh,
Mhm.
where do you see yourself? I would ask them, where do you see yourself the
Mhm.
next 3 years and 5 years? Some coaches would say, well, I want
Mhm.
my guys to honor a contract for 2 or 3 years. I wouldn't do
Mhm.
that because let's say a school from the Big East calls and they say, hey, I
Mhm.
want to talk to you. I can't say to that guy, well, you got to wait because you owe me a 2 year, 3 year commitment. I am
Right.
now impeding the progress of that assistant coach getting his
Right.
opportunity.
Right.
So so
Mhm.
I don't do that. If the guy's with me for a year and the Atlantic 10 comes knocking or the Big East, he's got to take that opportunity.
Mhm.
And so I wanted my guys to know that, you know. Um,
Right.
so that's also a part of building, like making sure your
Mhm.
staff is
Mhm.
is is happy with
Mhm.
what's going on. And then, you know, part to go back to that development stage, the
Mhm.
individual development, I would give them the latitude to work individually with our players.
Mhm.
And so because skill development is so important because hey, listen, when the game breaks down,
Mhm.
everybody has tapes on what you do and how you do things.
Mhm.
So when that
Mhm.
game breaks down, you have to make an individual play within the infrastructure of your offense.
Right. Right.
We
Right.
all know that we all know things happen. So that's
Mhm.
why the fundamentals of basketball is so prevalent. And the fundamentals don't change, by the way. People like to
Mhm.
think they do and add new
Mhm.
things. And I get that, but
Mhm.
you got to be sound fundamentally to be able to make a play down the stretch. And so I would
Mhm.
let my assistants take one assistant coach would be responsible for the perimeter players. The other assistant coach or coaches would be responsible for the post players. And
Mhm.
during our coaches meetings, I would
Mhm.
sit down and say, okay, what are you going to do with the perimeters today? And they say, well,
Mhm.
coach, we want to work on V cuts, working on a perimeters, getting open, and
Mhm.
being able to catch the ball and rip and attack the rim. And I'll say, hey,
Mhm.
fine, good. I said, now here's what I want you to be able to do to take 5 to 6 minutes of that 20 minutes or 15 minutes of skill development. I want you to work on the guards or the perimeters coming off screens, whether that be a single screen or a double
Mhm.
stack screen. But I want you to be able to work with those guys on the footwork and setting that
Mhm.
player up. So many
Mhm.
players just when a staggered screen or single screen is being set, they just run. They don't take their time to see how they're being played. So
Right.
we want to break that down to the
Okay.
finest
Mhm.
nth, okay? And
Mhm.
so we set that player up with a nice little cut. We get into his body and then we
Mhm.
cut off nice and tight off that screen where we got to touch
Mhm.
either a shoulder, a hip,
Mhm.
or a leg, but we're coming off nice and tight. So we know that when we come into that shot, we're going to be open for a shot opportunity most of the time. Okay.
Mm. Gotcha.
If
Gotcha.
not, if not, then we'll
Mhm.
make different reads off of those screens that we'll go over. But we want to take it. I like spoon feeding. Okay.
Mhm.
And then gradually build the house. All right.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that's what we'll do with the perimeters. With the post guys, I'll ask my assistants, hey, what's your plan for the post guys? And well, coach, we want to work on the mic ends and we want to work on catching the ball and shooting the ball from 15 feet, 10, 12 feet. And I say, hey, fine. But also, I want you to take a couple minutes on working on positioning. Okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
Players understanding where they can catch the ball on the block, catch the
Right.
ball either on that first marker or that
Mhm.
block or that first
Mhm.
marker. So when you catch and you make a drop step, you're not close to that baseline. You are
Mhm.
in a position where you're on an angle to use your shoulder to finish a play, okay, or
Mhm.
initiate that contact, or you can shoot your hook shot, or you can shot fake and power the ball up. So I'll
Mhm.
say, and let's add that into our scheme of things. So we're gradually building, and it also
Mhm.
gives my assistants an
Mhm.
opportunity to teach.
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
coach. So
Mhm.
um, skill development is very, very important, and I just
Mhm.
don't think you can get away from it. I know what happens a lot of times is coaches, you get so wrapped up into putting so many different things in, so
Mhm.
you get away from those things, you know.
Mhm.
And you can
Yeah.
also skill development incorporate your shooting into that as well.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
I think players they enjoy when you take time and you invest in
Mhm.
working on your skills to help them become better players.
Mhm.
And you also develop, once again, you connect with that group of players.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's good.
Right. Now, as you talk about giving your assistant coaches responsibilities to work with positional players and work on certain skills and develop, those things you talk about, coming off tight, off the screens, the double staggers and single screens and getting the shoulder cut, and really coming off your offensive guy and knowing how to make that defender kind of like just be trailing behind you so you can actually come off and make that move, going to the rim or
Mhm.
pulling up.
Right.
How much, as a coach in your philosophy that you work on developing players, their mental, uh, uh, development in terms of the mindset, the mental capacity in order to be students of the game,
Mhm.
understand how to uh, individually work on those skill sets and those fundamentals, even when the coach is not around, and also to play the game and also understand how to be, a team player and also a very coachable player. And
Right.
I guess, when you talk a little bit about that, also, can you just share a little bit about, what are those characteristics or those things, those qualities that you really look for in a high school kid? And this is for you high schoolers who are looking to get on a radar and to maybe possibly get college coaches interested in you, maybe offering you a scholarship. Okay. So here is a former D1, D2 college coach, head coach, and assistant coach is going to tell you what are some of those things that they look for in a high school player in terms of your qualities that they look to try to recruit to bring in to be a part of their family. And remember what he said when he said, you are part of the family. So you got to remember that because if a head coach is bringing you in to be a part of a family, everyone doesn't just want anyone in their family. So you got to fit. You understand? So listen very carefully.
You know, I'm going to hit on that last point you made first about
Mhm.
what what it is that we look for in a prospective student athlete. And Tony, obviously, a young man's character, like
Mhm.
you did, that is first and foremost. Like
Mhm.
you want
Mhm.
to be able to know that this young man can be coached.
Mhm.
Uh, if you take a youngster who can't be coached, you're really going to uh, hurt your program, I think,
Mhm.
because that means if he can't be coached now, how is he going after 4 or 5 years of doing things his way?
Mhm.
He's been able to do what he wants because his high school coach is afraid to lose him.
Mhm.
Let me tell you, I lost guys as a college coach because I saw their behavior, their attitude, and
Mhm.
there was flaws there. And so
Mhm.
I'm like, I don't care how good this person is, he
Mhm.
can't play for me. There was a young man, I won't give you his name, but he was a big man, uh,
Mhm.
came from a very, very good high school, Catholic high school down in Washington, D.C. And
Mhm.
he was transferring for the University of Dayton. And,
Mhm.
you know, big six, I mean, 6'9", 6'10", but he was built like a brick house. He
Mhm.
was He made
Mhm.
two of Tony Coleman's, and one of Tony Coleman is huge. Okay, he made two of Tony
Yeah.
Coleman, right?
He was
And
he was big, babe. He was big, babe.
yes, he was, and I would have liked to have had him, but
Yeah.
The first bell rang off when I met him at the airport,
Mhm.
and you know his it was almost like I had to do him a favor. Okay,
Mhm.
so right then and there, I said, "Hey, do me a favor." Okay, and and right then and there, the antennas of Coach Monroe went up, and I'm saying,
Yeah.
do you really want this young man? And I'm trying to strike up a conversation with this young man
Right.
from the airport to
Mhm.
campus, which is only our the good thing about the area that UMBC was located in.
Mhm.
We were less than 10 minutes away from the airport.
Mhm.
Okay. So we get to campus, we show the young man around. My
Mhm.
assistants do a good job with him. You know, the next day we meet for breakfast, and the
Mhm.
guy looked like he had everything on his t-shirt. He came downstairs. He had a t-shirt on, you know, a pair of uh, like sweatpants, like he slept in them all
Mhm.
night, and a pair of construction boots. Okay. Now, mind you, I'm taking this young man to see the president of our university, who was a very, very
Mhm.
prominent person who just retired,
Mhm.
Freeman Babowski. And I said to him at the breakfast table, I said, listen,
Mhm.
you're not going to go visit my president looking like that. So you're going to have to go back to the hotel. One of my assistants is going to take you back to the hotel. You're going to clean yourself up.
Yeah.
So bing, 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 bell number two goes off. And I'm
Uh-huh.
saying, do I really want to deal with this? Because I'm seeing some flaws right now. Okay.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so uh, he says to me, well, I don't think I want to go visit your I said, you know what? You're right. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to get on the bus. Or no, I've actually had my assistant look for a flight to send him back home because I could
Mhm.
just tell that
Mhm.
he wasn't buying into it. Was almost like he was doing me a favor, you
Right.
know, by
Right.
visiting us. So
Right.
I
Right.
remember, I remember uh, Brian Gregory, who was Tom Izzo's assistant at Michigan State, who was the head
Mhm.
coach at Dayton at that time, where the young man was visiting. He
Mhm.
saw me down in Florida, and he starts laughing. He goes, "Hey, I heard what you did to the young man." And
Mhm.
so Tom Izzo just so happened to be standing next to him, and he shared that story with Tom Izzo. And Tom Izzo says, "I love it." He goes, "Great." He goes, "No one's bigger than the program, and
Mhm.
if on the visit, if you
Mhm.
can't exude how you were brought up or how your family raised you and taught you some
Mhm.
values and
Mhm.
some very specific things, then you
Mhm.
can't. There's no way that you can be part of a program. So,
Mhm.
uh, character, Tony, is first and
Mhm.
foremost. Um,
Mm. Yeah.
attitude,
Mhm.
attitude. Okay,
Mhm.
I know it sounds cliche, but there's no secrets to this stuff. This is true.
Right. Right.
If
Right.
you can't display a positive attitude um, uh, towards your teammates, towards your
Mhm.
coach. Like right then and there are red flags.
Yeah.
Like you can't. You that means that you're not going to clean that up within a matter of months before you get to that new school. Okay,
Mhm.
you're going to
Mhm.
have those flaws,
Right.
and
Right.
um, obviously being able to play the game, having talent. Are you a selfish player? Are you a
Mhm.
guy who, like, every time the ball comes in your hand, you shoot it? And guess what? You're
Mhm.
not just shooting good shots, you're shooting bad shots. Your
Mhm.
shot selection is poor. I used to tell the young men at St. Joe's Prep during those evaluation periods where we would go to Jefferson and play in Philly Live and some of the
Mhm.
other tournaments at different colleges. I would say to guys,
Mhm.
don't be good at making yourself look like a bad player. And
Mhm.
what I meant by that is show players that you understand how to play the game of basketball. And I think sometimes this is missing with our young because we think that when a college coach comes to see us play, that we just have to jack up shots. We'll take shots. We'll shoot from
Mhm.
anywhere. And
Mhm.
that is a surefire sign right there for a college coach to do one of two things. Either look at your name, see what school you play for, and take his pen and go right through your name, first and last, and say, not a good fit.
Mm.
Okay. or that coach will remember your name and get up and go to the next court and start watching another game. Okay.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it's very important for young people to understand when you
Mhm.
show coaches that you know how to play, that doesn't necessarily mean you always have to take shots because let's face it, in these games, these
Mhm.
AAU games, these camp
Mhm.
games,
Mhm.
there different personalities are coming together. Different
Mhm.
egos are coming together. Guys want to
Right.
take shots. Guys don't care what kind of shots
Mhm.
they take. Okay.
Mhm.
Some guys never met a shot they didn't like. All right.
Yeah.
However,
Mhm.
you got to be able to defend. Show coaches that you know how to get down in the stance, put good
Yeah.
pressure on
Yeah.
the basketball. Not necessarily
Mhm.
reach for the ball and steal for the ball, but put good pressure on the basketball where you bother the ball, where you make that offensive player pick the ball up and then
Mhm.
throw the ball to a teammate. You've done your job as a defensive player when you made that
Mhm.
offensive player get rid of the basketball. Okay.
Mhm.
When you
Mhm.
block out, when you block a person out and you challenge for the rebound, okay?
Mhm.
Or when you screen to get a teammate open, and then
Mhm.
because you set such a good screen to get your teammate open, you get
Mhm.
yourself open because the
Mhm.
defense is cheating or it's not ready to play. They're out of
Right.
position. They fell asleep. So now it's like, oh, my man's open. Let me get out to him. Well, you know what? You slip the
Mhm.
screen, you get open, you got a shot. Okay.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
so there's so many different ways that you could make yourself look like a very good player without even taking
Mhm.
a shot. Now we all
Mhm.
like to score, don't get me wrong. But when you
Right.
take good shots,
Mhm.
good shot selection is so important. I think so many
Mhm.
young people miss that point
Mhm.
because they want to just get the ball in their hands and just jack up shots. But
Mhm.
really, you show coaches that you don't know how to play when you constantly take bad shots in these events. Okay,
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
there's just a few things that we look
Mhm.
and we see
Mhm.
if a player is a good fit in the program. How would he get along with the other
Mhm.
guys that we have in the program? You know,
Mhm.
uh,
Now, one other point I want to bring up because this is really good. This is really good, and I hope that our listeners, our audience, is really paying attention to this because this is coming firsthand from a former Division One head coach, and how they evaluate and they're looking at you at these tournaments and you're playing. Just play your game and learn how to play without the basketball. You have to learn how to play without the ball in your hand.
mhm,
Like Coach Monroe was saying, play some defense, guard and defend, go rebound the basketball, cheer somebody on, be an assist, maker, just do something different, set some good screens and get your teammate open, you know? And, the one thing that I wanted to bring up and ask your opinion, and I've had these kind of conversations with a lot of young student athletes aspiring to try to, get looks, is their highlight tapes. What I'm seeing in these highlight tapes, Randy, is they make every shot. They don't
right.
make no mistakes.
They don't foul.
They don't foul. All this music in the background, crazy music. So from a college coach perspective, what do you think when you get these film and these tapes from these kids who are trying to get you to recruit them? When you see these kinds of films?
Well, first thing I say is don't send me highlights. I don't want to see that. Send me film. Send
Mhm,
me 2 to 3 game film, a full game. Okay, because
mhm,
that's going to tell me more
mhm,
than you sending me a highlight film with the music on. Hey, listen, I love music too. Okay,
mhm,
you know me, Tony. I listen to everything,
mhm.
but
Right.
I don't want to get a highlight film for 5 minutes
Mhm,
of a guy making a shot every time he touches the ball. Okay.
mhm,
I want to be able to see what he does on the offensive end of the floor. Does he understand, uh, what his coach wants him to do on the floor? Does he recognize the situations on the floor
mhm, mhm,
as an offensive player? I
mhm,
want to see this young man being able to get stops defensively, getting down in the
mhm,
stance, maybe being in the passing lane to force that offensive player to catch the ball further away from the basket than they normally would like to catch it. Um, I want to be able to see players, defender guys, close out defensively with their hands high, or maybe get the hand out for a player who's probably a slasher. All right, well,
Mm,
you play off
mhm,
of him. Like, I want to be
mhm,
able to see players being able to do those things. I want to be able
mhm,
to see players, once a shot goes up, you're going to go
mhm,
up with a contested hand. Okay,
mhm, mhm,
challenging the shot, and then you're going to come down, and then you're going to make contact. You're going to drive that offensive player away so you can get in position to get the rebound. I
mhm,
want to be able to see you get on the floor for loose balls. Okay,
mhm,
I
mhm,
want to see you be able to make crisp passes into the post, or
mhm,
make good passes away from the defender and not pass the ball into the defender's hand.
mhm,
I want to see you be able to make good crisp passes along the perimeter, because
mhm,
your teammate's able to make a V cut or L cut to get open, and it gives you a target. Like,
mhm,
I want you to be able to, I want to be able to see those things. Now, he
mhm,
may not be able to do all those things, but if he's able to do a good portion of them, and I think that's also
mhm,
depends on what
mhm,
program you're coming from. Uh,
mhm,
because there are some great high school coaches out there who could be college
mhm,
coaches. We all
mhm,
know that. And So I'm looking at those kinds of things as opposed
mhm,
to a 3 minute highlight tape,
mhm,
uh,
mhm.
which won't tell me much.
Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. That's an excellent response, and I hope that our audience is really paying attention because this is very vital and crucial information. And I just want to shift a little bit because we're on these topics of how you need to really understand student athletes on the high school level, how college coaches are thinking and how they're looking and evaluating you. And they're always thinking about their system and their program. How can you fit into their family? So you hear people say, how do you fit in their system? Well, it's a little bit more than just to play on the floor. It's his character. He talked about the character. He talked about your attitude. How do you really treat your teammates? And all of these things. These are all characteristics that these coaches are looking for to be able to like fit into their particular program. Okay. Now, I want you, Randy, to touch on this a little bit because this is something that is huge. At the high school level, you have a lot of student athletes, and this is not a knock on you parents, but I just want you to hear from a college coach who have recruited and coached and kind of like grew up young boys to young men, okay, through his program. And we're talking into, the hundreds, I don't know, could be, well, he could be in the thousands of all the guys that he has impacted over 35 years of coaching at every level. And the thing that I want to kind of like, touch base on and bring up so that he can finish this off with the way that he see it is parents. Oftentimes we have to let our kids, especially, our young men and young women who are student athletes or looking to aspire to the next level, face some adversity, face some adverse times, independent time, because in high school, okay, sometimes we could be a little bit overbearing, but if they are aspiring to go to the next level, and if they have that potential and capability, you're going to have to allow them to feel some adverse time, some pain, some different things they got to work through. They got to think through, because once they get to college, now it becomes a time where they have to manage their time. There's no bells. There's no one waking you up. There's no one telling you to get to class and do your homework and do your studies and get to practice and work on this and work on that. So those are kind of skills that we really got to push our kids to do, parents. And Randy, if you could just talk on that a little bit, because when they come to you in college and they're on that campus, now they become young people that are making decisions for themselves. They got to
Mhm.
be mentally ready and disciplined to be able to carry out the schedules that they have and the schedules that you have assigned them, when it comes to basketball as well as being a student. So
Mhm.
you can talk about that a little bit on trying to help get them ready. So, when coaches are recruiting, man, they learn and find out that kind of intel about you, the discipline, the things that you're doing. Oh man, you're going to be fine, when you come to college, because you have those skill sets in place already.
One of the things that we'll talk about when our when a freshman comes on, or it could be a transfer student, or a junior college student. Doesn't matter. One of the things that I would always do first, Tony, is look to pair that new student with an upperclassman
Mm,
to and I did that because I thought it was vital to be. Once again, you're talking about family, right?
mm,
Family's got to look out for one another. You got to have your brother's back. Okay.
right, right.
So if I know this freshman coming in, he's new to what's going on in college. You get a junior college player, you get a prep school player coming in. Everything's going to be new to them. And let's face it, I don't care how talented you are, there's going to be angst. There's
Mm-hmm,
going to be anxiety.
mm-hmm.
Okay. There's going to be nervousness. I don't care who you are. Okay.
Right,
Because
right,
everything is so new and there's a lot of uncertainty.
right.
So to help you ease some of that uncertainty is we pair you up with a veteran who's been on campus for a couple years.
Mm-hmm,
Uh, and we try to pair them with someone whose personality is alike.
mm-hmm,
So they can help that youngster, um, and let that youngster know, hey, how the program is,
mm-hmm,
how school is, get that guy up to get that teammate up, and you guys go have breakfast together. Then you show him how to go to class. I'm not saying hold his hand, but you got to be there to have that emotional support
mm-hmm. Right,
is
right.
so valuable.
Mhm.
Okay.
Right, right.
And when you have that, it helps build your confidence up.
Mm,
And you get to the point where you're able to do things uh,
mhm,
on your own. But you
mhm,
need that support from your brother, your older brother,
mhm,
okay, to help
mhm.
you navigate through some of the rigors of college. And
Right.
so
Mm,
we would do that. Okay.
mhm,
Um,
mhm,
the other thing we do is we'd have study halls,
mhm,
and study halls would go. I was a stickler on having study hall in the evenings from 7 to 9 because I thought that time of the evening, we all
mhm.
know college students. Okay, their
Right.
minds are elsewhere. They want to go out, do other things, but
Mhm,
once again, you're in school for a reason. You
mhm.
Yes, for as much as we want you to play basketball, you're in school to get your degree.
Right,
Okay. So
right.
for me, it was like 7 to 9, 5 days out of the week. It was from Sunday to Thursday.
Mhm,
If you had a I said 2.5 or better, you were able to go, you didn't have to come to study hall
mhm,
unless that grade point average dropped. Then you were
mm,
back in study hall. Now I had to do that with a couple seniors. Okay.
mhm, mhm,
But
mhm,
there was a bigger picture. Hey, you're not being committed enough to the academic side of
mhm.
your of the process here. So you're back in study hall. So I had to
Gotcha.
do that. Didn't have to do it with many of them because
Mhm,
it was like, okay, I don't want to be back in study hall because coaches want to
mhm,
make sure I get back if I don't do what I'm supposed to. So you would
mm.
see guys, man, they were hustling. They were working, they were getting their work done because they didn't want to be in study hall. And
Right,
so
right.
And so, and Tony, you know this, you have a group of 12, maybe 14 guys on a team. You know,
Mhm.
there's going to be 4 or 5 you're not going to have to worry about. You know, there's probably going to be 4 that you might have to really worry about. And then at
Mhm.
the other guys are going to be like status quo, but they're going to get their stuff done.
Mhm.
Um, and then what I would do if the student was struggling, then I would make sure like during his time where he thought he had free time during the course of the day, he had to come
Mhm.
back for, he didn't have to stay in there all day, but he had to come back for
Mhm.
an hour or so to put some time in. Okay.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
and he would be putting time in with his tutor.
Mhm.
And I was a stickler. I think the people at UMC NBC hated me because I was just as passionate about my players doing their job in the classroom as
Mhm.
I was coaching them on the floor. And they knew
Yeah.
that. And they knew
Yeah.
that. So
Good.
those are just some of the things that, when you talk about putting a program together, when you talk about youngsters going to school and making that adjustment.
Mhm. Mhm.
But the other thing that I would do with the guys too, Tony, is I would give them goal sheets.
Mhm.
Each player got a goal sheet, and I would give them that at the beginning of the school year. And
Mhm.
it would be here. I would have on the sheet, what is your academic goal? And
Okay.
I wouldn't get and I would not give them 15 different things. Just
Mhm.
give me 2 to 3 steps that you're
Mhm.
going to take to reach your academic goal. It might be, hey, I want to try to get a 3.5 or 3.0 or 4.0. Okay, here are the steps.
Mhm.
Here are the two. You tell me the steps that you think
Mhm.
you have to take to get that GPA. And we're going to talk about it.
Gotcha.
Then I would say, hey, what's your athletic goal? List your athletic goal. Now, what 2 or 3 steps are you going to take to reach your athletic goals? Okay.
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
at the bottom of the sheet, I would have, what do you see yourself doing 5 to 6 years from now?
Mhm.
And I wanted them, I knew they wouldn't know that right away, but
Mhm.
I'm planting a seed right now. So you
Right.
can
Right.
start
Mhm.
thinking about your future. Because
Right.
when you look at it as a freshman, you go, oh, it's 4 years. That's a lot of time. But we all know 4 years goes like that, Tony. We all
Man, it
know
goes
how
fast.
fast it goes, right?
Yep.
It
Yep.
goes extremely fast. But at least
Mhm.
I'm planting a seed in your mind to start thinking about your future and your
Right.
career.
Right.
And so I would give that sheet out to the guys at the beginning of the year. And I would
Mhm.
say, hey, in 2 weeks, I want you to hand me this form, this sheet back. I'm going to make a copy because I'm going to keep for myself, and I'm going to
Mhm.
give you that copy back. Okay,
Mhm.
because that's yours, and
Mhm.
that's your goal. That's your blueprint right there. That's your organized plan of attack.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
and let me back up a little bit because when we talk about your athletic goals, a lot of people say, "Well, you shouldn't talk about individual goals." Well, hey, we all had individual goals.
That's
Okay,
right. That's right.
within the team scope and the team infrastructure, we all had goals. That's what drove us.
Mhm.
Okay. And so if a youngster said to me, well, hey, coach, I want to make the all rookie team. Hey, you know what? I applaud that.
Mhm.
Coach, you know what? I want to be all conference there. Okay, fine.
Mhm.
What are you going to do to be all conference? Are you going to watch extra film? Are you
Right.
going to put in extra practice time beyond the practice time that you have with your team? Okay.
Mhm. Right.
Are you going to study the game? So
Mhm.
those are different things that he
Mhm.
can do. Okay.
Mhm.
But that's his blueprint.
Right. Right.
That's his blueprint. And I would meet with the guys myself regularly and we would talk about their goals.
Mhm.
And I'd say, hey, are you living up to your goals? Okay.
Mhm.
Are you living up to your goals in the classroom? Are you doing what you need to do? And
Mhm.
once again, it comes part back of being a part of a family. Like
Right.
my job is to help develop these young men, Tony, to
Mhm.
be young men, to not just
Mhm.
be good players for me, but to be able to reach back and help other young men. And then
Right.
those young men reach back and help other young men. So as
Mhm.
crazy as this sound, guess what?
Mhm.
we have an army of our own of young
Mhm.
people helping other young people to lead productive lives in our society. And so for
Right.
me, that's what
Mhm.
that's what this was all about.
Right. Each one teach one.
Each one. Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
good. That's good,
Absolutely.
man. It's about developing those off the court skills, man, that's going to last a lifetime because at some point that ball stops bouncing. And
We
now
all know that.
you got to live life, so
Absolutely.
the- these
Absolutely.
these attributes and these skills that you would teach and be a part of your philosophy are absolutely phenomenal and much needed. So,
Mhm.
parents and young athletes, guys and girls, when you are looking for a program in a family, uh, make sure that you are looking, just like Coach Monroe said, and studying and doing your homework on the staff and what kind of environment and climate do they create so that that program can grow and to fester and become something that's great. And when you see these programs that are very successful, they don't just become successful because I say, oh well, we just want to be good. No, there's a plan and there are goals, short term goals and long term goals that is set by the visionary head coach in order to get that thing carried out. And they have to bring in the right people and surround them so that they can do the things they need to do with all the young people to establish a successful program. So I just want to ask you this, question, and I know we're going to come down to, kind of closing out, for the sake of you having to get back to, your lovely wife, you know, Tori, Randy Monroe,
Mm.
lovely wife Tori is a phenomenal, phenomenal lady, phenomenal woman who really knows the true meaning of family and taking care of those people that you know that even are extended family. Really makes you feel comfortable every time you come over. And the thing that I wanted to bring up because you've been coaching for 30 plus years, during your earlier years, the game of basketball has evolved in a way that there's been some adjustments and changes. Um, I think during your era when you were playing as an All American player, the game was played from the inside out, and now today it's played from the outside in.
Mm.
So, what kind of techniques or changes or adjustments that you've made over the years, with your coaching philosophy and your teaching in order to make those adjustments because of how the game has evolved and kind of like changed up a little bit, from those perspectives and even some of the rule changes, you know.
Well, one of the things that I did actually when I first got the job at UMBC, Tony's, I was looking at how we could space the floor better, you know,
Mhm,
because we all know, as you were saying, the game now has evolved to playing outside in. Like nobody wants to. And I always say this because I was a big man, and you played in the post too. You a guy that could come out on the
mhm,
perimeter and knock shots down, but you know.
mhm.
You will never never get rid of the big man. Let me just say that.
Right,
You can never
right,
you might try, but you need the big fella in order to advance all the way to the big dance. Okay. And,
that's
and,
right,
and, and pull and win the title. Okay.
that's
But
right.
but what I did was I went to this open post motion where we could space the floor out. But when I
Mhm,
wanted for us to get the ball in the post, I would have different entries for us to get
mhm,
the ball into the post. Okay.
mhm,
But
mhm,
we were, and we didn't have, we had of, a couple of bigs, but may have had maybe two or three legitimate players with their back to the basket who were good, and I had to find ways to get them the basketball because they were good. But
Mm-hmm.
I would I would look at that and say, there's I have to be flexible in my teaching, and that was one of the ways, as opposed to saying, you know what, we're just going to keep punching the ball inside, keep punching inside. Just to give an example, the year that we won we went to the NCAA tournament. I
Mm-hmm.
had I was fortunate enough to have five all league players.
Wow.
Okay, five. Not many coaches can boast that. I had
Mm-hmm.
five all league players. Okay,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and um, the thing about them was, for as talented as they were unselfish.
Mm-hmm.
They were very unselfish. Well,
Mm-hmm.
we averaged probably up in the mid 80s. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so if you picture this, if you're scoring up in the 80s, okay, now we're talking about 2008. All right, you scoring up in the 80s and you're holding teams to low 60s or 70s. You're going to win a lot of games. Okay, and
Yeah.
so those guys were able to play off of one another. They understood spacing, and they were. I mean, I brought in three transfers.
Mm.
Okay, two had 1 year to play, and the other gentleman had 2 years to play. People thought I was nuts, but I said, you know what? and I can't sit here and tell you, Tony, it was my mastermind, brilliant
Mm-hmm.
way of doing it. I tried it. And
Mm-hmm.
I said, let's see if it works. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And those three guys came in and they fit like a hand in glove with the young guys that I had. Like
Mm-hmm.
they didn't come in because most guys come in, they're thinking, well, let me go and get my points. Let me do this so I can get out here and go overseas. Those guys didn't
Right.
think. They were so unselfish, and
Mm.
that made my job easier. So
Right.
I had to let those guys play, but
Mm-hmm.
not helter skelter, not get out of control, but
Mm-hmm.
play within the confines of what we were doing. Okay, and that was making sure the floor was spaced, setting good screens for one another, um,
Mm-hmm.
and so it helped us. It also helped me.
Mm-hmm.
When I first started coaching, I got into using like a lot of 1-4 stuff. But
Gotcha.
as you know, it could clog up the top half of the foul line on up. So
Right.
that's where we went to space the floor out a little bit more. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it was something that, an adjustment that I made, and I was comfortable with it, because
Mm-hmm.
as a coach, once again, when you talk about evolving, you're also
Right.
studying the game as well. And
Right.
you're studying and seeing where this player could fit, where he could best get the basketball and be a threat. And
Mm-hmm.
so those are some of the things that I looked at when I saw the game changing in that regard.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. 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 So, wow, that's huge. Now, you talked a lot about offensive development and spacing on the floor and finding ways to get your best players the ball, things of that nature. What was your philosophy or your mindset when it came to guarding and defending and stopping the opponent? Defensively. How important was defense to you in your philosophy on the other side of the ball? You
Hmm.
know, games to your players.
That was the cornerstone, to be honest
Mm,
with you.
mm,
I probably consider myself more of a defensive coach when I
mm,
first started. But as we started getting more and more talent,
mhm,
I said, I didn't give up on the defense, but
mhm,
I said I had to let these guys play. But at the same time, I was still going to be demanding on the little intricacies of defense, like being in
mhm,
a stance. Like
mhm,
you have to be in
mhm,
your stance. You have to be
mhm,
able to move your feet. Okay. Your feet, and your eyes move before your hands. If your
Mm-hmm.
hands are moving first on your body
Mm-hmm.
and you're in a defensive stance, that means you're fouling.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that means you're fouling, and we don't want. We did. We harped on that every year about being down in the stance. We will work on stance positioning, foot movement. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I was a big believer in changing defenses, Tony. I didn't allow my pride to get in the way and say, you know what, man, we're going to stick with this man to man. Well, they're kicking your butt right now, man to man. So adjustment needs to be made here. So
Right.
maybe we go to playing a little 2-3 zone, or
Mm-hmm.
we go to playing, if a team's beating us off the dribble and we can't stop them in a man, hey, you know what? Play a little 1-3-1 zone defense, or play a little 3-2 zone, so we can get out to the shooters on the wings there faster. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I would try different things to offset the
Mm-hmm.
defense. That also meant I would press. I would use a 2-2-1 three-quarter court press, a 2-2-1 full court press. Sometimes I'd fall back into a zone on that, or sometimes we go man to man. And I tell you,
Mm-hmm.
my first couple years at UMBC, we played some of the local teams like Towson and Loyola, and we were down double figures a couple games to those
Mm-hmm.
teams, and we came back and we beat them because we changed our defense, we pressed, we fell back into a man to man, and when
Mm-hmm.
you're pressing and you fall back into man to man, you're obviously not going to be guarding the man that you would normally guard in the half court. That means you're going to have to pick up somebody different. So
Right.
we
Right. Right.
practice we practice that every day. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Because I wanted our guys to know that, hey, if one defense isn't working right now, that doesn't mean that we sit here and let this other team beat our brains in, because we want to,
Right.
because I, as a coach, I'm
Right.
prideful and I'm going to stay in my man to man. No, I'm going to get out of this freaking man to man defense, and we're going to get into something else and see if
Mm-hmm.
that works. And
Mm-hmm.
then we'll come back to man to man maybe later on. But I don't think you can. Sometimes you can't give a team a steady diet of one thing, because from a
Mm-hmm.
defensive standpoint, because they can pick you apart. And, and
Right.
and you do a lot of different things. If a team has a good post player, hey, how
Mm-hmm.
do we? The ball goes over your head. We're going to go dig down on there and make the big fella, make him a passer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're going to
Right.
make him
Right.
pass that basketball back out, and we did that a couple times against Vermont, who had a really good big guy. He was undersized, but
Mm-hmm.
he was a strong player. And, we gave him fits because we would really belly up on him in the low
Mm-hmm.
post, and we would dig down on him. And we
Mm-hmm.
were like, you know what, big fella, you're going to have to pass this ball tonight, because we're not going to give you that easy inside one-on-one coverage.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Gotcha.
um,
Yeah.
I don't think you can be a stickler to just one thing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
You,
I, you
you gotta
gotta,
be flexible and you gotta be ready to make adjustments on the fly because
absolutely.
that game plan that you had going into the war, so to speak, hey, it may not be working. So if we're going to try to actually win this game, we're going to have to make some adjustments and shift some things in order to try to do
Sure.
that. Yeah,
Absolutely. I mean, that's
yeah,
that's that's what it comes down to. I mean,
yeah.
basketball's a game of changes, you know.
Mm,
Um,
mm,
and it's a
mhm,
game of stopping, starting, changing direction. It's so many things that go on during the
mhm,
course of a
mhm.
game that
Right, right,
you
right,
got to be able to make some
right,
adjustments.
right. So as we talk about, you know, adjustments and trying to put ourselves in a better position to be successful with an outcome of a winning result, how do we, or how do you, or how did you, Randy, kind of balance the pressure to win um, when it came to uh, teaching your players skills and teaching them values and different things, you know what I mean, that they're going to need in order to be a whole, well-rounded, you know, not only player but individual and person. The pressure to win. You know how there's just so much pressure nowadays, especially, at at college level or any level really, to
Mm-hmm.
win. Oh, you didn't
Right,
win.
right, right,
Oh man, you got to win. Coaches are
right,
losing their
right,
jobs and things of that nature.
right,
So
right.
how do you balance that thing?
Well, first of all, I think, Tony, you have to be true to yourself.
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm,
Um, we talked about pressure as a group, like how to deal with it. Um,
mhm,
I even brought in, there's a couple of years where I brought in a sports psychologist from Richmond, Virginia, just to look at
mhm,
how we did things, from how
mhm,
I was running practice to how the players were practicing to how
mhm,
the coach, my staff was coaching, um,
mhm,
to how we entered the floors, how we played, how we approached the game. Like, and
mhm,
he stayed with us for
mhm,
about 3 days or so, and he gave me a blueprint
mhm,
on each
mhm,
individual player. But
mhm,
I also, just talked to our guys about pressure, and I was like, pressure is how you look at it. Pressure is a privilege. It's an honor to
mhm,
be able to represent our school, to represent UMBC, like, and it
mhm,
took a while for that to start to soak in with our guys, but they believed in it. They believed in their leader,
mhm,
because to me, you know, as much as I loved winning and competing in basketball games, I also knew my job was to have these young men prepared for
mhm,
when they
mhm,
left college to go pursue
mhm,
that job of their choice. So
mhm,
I wasn't going to sacrifice any of the players through a lot of nonsense. I wasn't doing that. Okay.
Gotcha,
And
gotcha.
so for me, it was about, yes, playing basketball at the highest level, but making ourselves
Mhm,
better every day. It's just a simple thing. It's that it
mhm,
doesn't. Sometimes I think people complicate matters with
mhm,
the sport that we play. It's very very simple. I had a
mhm,
one of my mentors and good friends, other than Coach Morris, was uh, was a gentleman by the name of Jimmy Maloney, who was Coach Cheney's
mm.
right hand man.
Jimmy
And
Maloney. Jimmy
yeah,
Maloney.
Coach
Yes.
Maloney
Yes.
took me under his wing as a young assistant at LaSalle University. We'd always go out, we'd have
Mhm,
lunch, we'd
mhm,
talk basketball. He would always carry a notepad under his arms, and he'd
mhm,
have a bunch of notes on the game of basketball. And he would say to me, Randy, he says, you know
mhm,
what, at Temple, you might know what we're going to do, but you got to stop it.
mm,
You
mm.
got to stop it.
That's
And
right.
to me, that was,
Mhm.
I mean, what else needs to be said? Like,
Right.
you
Right.
be, you might know what we do, but because of our player development, because how
Mhm,
we work with our guys on a regular
mhm,
basis every single day, our guys are
mhm,
getting better. And see,
mm,
that's the key. As long as you're getting better every
mhm,
day,
mhm,
players to players, coaches to coaches, coaches to players, players to coaches, as long as you're
mm,
getting better every day, and
mhm,
it starts with me, the head coach, bringing in the
mhm,
blueprint, okay,
mhm,
and
mhm,
making sure that that blueprint is executed every day. Not necessarily talk about we got to win championships. We got to. I think that's all fine and good, but I think that's very shallow. I think
mhm,
once again, and I understand the pressures of winning and all that other stuff, but once again, when you talk about running a
mhm,
program to me is when former players come back with their children and their families, and they're
mm,
proud to say they were part of something.
mm. Yeah. Yeah.
That's a program, okay?
Yeah. Mm,
Program
yeah.
to me is when the former players can pick the phone up and say, "Hey, coach, how you doing? Coach,
Mhm,
I'm getting
mhm,
married. I want you to come to my
mhm,
wedding, okay?
mm,
Or coach, I
mhm.
want you to come to my baby shower, all right? Or coach,
Right. Right.
I want you to be the godfather of my child." Like,
Mm,
that's a
mm,
program. because you
Okay.
know that you've put your stamp on it. Okay.
Right, right, right,
And
right.
that takes care of everything else. It
Mm,
really does. And when you
yeah,
like
yeah.
when you watch the really good programs year in and
Hmm.
year out,
Hmm.
your Dukes, your
Yeah,
North Carolinas, your
yeah.
Villanovas, like
Mhm.
year in and
Mhm.
year out, their programs are very good because of
Mhm.
a simple plan. It didn't have to
Mhm.
be. I think sometimes we complicate it because we try to do a million and one things.
Mhm.
You don't
Mhm.
have to do a million and one things.
Right,
You just
right,
very simplistic, and then you
right,
execute. You execute.
right. Consistency and execution is the key to
Yeah,
molding and grooming and building that culture and that family, man. That's
absolutely.
key. I love that philosophy. I love that philosophy of family because you know, college, kids are away from home and they have to feel comfortable. And then also, in order for you to build relationships on a long term with all of the players that you bring in through your program, you're
Mhm.
able to stay in touch like you just said. So that's a phenomenal thing. And as we all know that, relationships is the key to everything. It's all about relationships, being able to extend and get to the next level and to connect and be successful and do the things that you were born to do in society.
And Tony,
So yeah.
I'm sorry. Let me
Mm,
just hit on this point too. The other thing you
mm,
have to do as a coach too is you have
mhm,
to come. You got to come out of your space and from
mhm,
behind your desk
mhm,
and go into their space.
mm.
Okay. And what I mean by that is sometimes it's not, kids get nervous just because, oh man, the coach wants to see me. It's like going to the principal's office. Oh man, coach
Right,
wants, and now the coach is sitting behind his desk.
right,
You know
right,
what?
right,
Sometimes you got to go and meet them where they are. And
right, right.
if that means going over to the dorm, sitting down with them in the
Mhm,
lounge, if that
mhm,
means going to the cafeteria and having lunch or breakfast with them, if that means
mhm,
just sitting out on a beautiful day around a
mhm,
tree and just talking, like
mhm.
once again, building that relationship, which makes that youngster feel like he's a part of something special and bigger than himself.
Right. Building that relationship by breaking down barriers,
Right.
coming from behind that desk and getting down right on their level and make them feel comfortable. That's
Hmm.
good. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. I hope that you guys are listening, young people, because these are good. These are good tips here. And because we're going to get ready to conclude this wonderful conversation, you know, of recruiting and college coaching perspectives with young prospects and this whole thing with this game itself. Randy, I'm going to give you an opportunity to close us out by, just based on everything that we've talked about. Um, if you can kind of like culminate or bring everything together so that this is a conclusion that's going to be beneficial to families, okay, and to parents and their young student athletes that are aspiring to become prospects, that are looking for an opportunity to get to the next level. And, what are those steps and those blueprints and those things that, I'm going to need? And, after, Randy, concludes with that, I just want to remind you all right now that TGBA is in the business of helping you actually um, get your name on the radar, showing you a blueprint so that you could individually, you know, meet the standards or the criteria that a lot of college coaches are looking for so that you can become a possible recruit. All right. So, but with that being said, I'm going to let Coach Randy, and I call him the big fella, Monroe, close us out, man, with these last tips. So listen up. Listen up, families. Listen up.
Well, parents, to you in particular, I'm going to say this: do not put so much pressure on your child, whether it's a boy or girl. Let them make mistakes because that's how they learn. Okay, um, don't give them emotional support. Don't try to always coach them, because I think what happens is when you have the coach saying one thing, then the parent says something else. This youngster is now confused. Okay.
Mhm.
And that's why you don't have a lot of youngsters performing to the best of their abilities, because on one hand, they're trying to please the coach because they know what the coach wants. On the other hand, they have you in his ear, his or her ear, and now they know that they have to go home with you. And so you don't realize the pressure that you're
Mhm.
putting on your child because you're trying to coach them.
Right.
Don't coach them. Let the coaches coach them. Okay.
Mhm.
You're there to support them. Put that arm around them when they need it. I'm not saying baby them, but I see so many times, and over the years, it's gotten worse with parents getting into it with coaches. And listen, I'm going to say this to you: coaches want to win too, and they're going to put the best players that they feel out there on the floor. Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
Um, and do coaches make mistakes? Absolutely. There's no perfect people out there, by the way. I just want to tell you. I know sometimes people may think they're perfect, but there's no perfect people. There's no perfect way of doing one thing. Okay. But you have to be able to let that youngster uh, be able to enjoy. I think when they're enjoying this
Mhm.
process, you'll be
Mhm.
amazed at the decisions that those young people can make. And
Right.
I think that we have to keep that in mind,
Mhm.
um, and then let them make the decision as to
Mhm.
what they're going to do and how they're going to do certain things, because it's their decision when it comes down to what school they're going to go to. Okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
Now, obviously, during the recruiting process, parents want to be involved. They should be involved. All right. As I
Mhm.
said at the beginning of our talk, you should know everybody who's calling your son or your daughter. You should know those coaches. You should get a pen and a pad out, and you document and you write down certain specific things that coaches are telling you, telling your sons, telling your daughters. Write them down, okay?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
things don't get skewered. All right. And so
Right.
now you know exactly what school is serious in your son or daughter and what school's not. Here's another thing: there's a difference between being interested in your son and daughter and offering your son and daughter. If
Mm.
schools are telling you at the beginning of the year that they're interested in you and interested in, and they're telling you in the middle of the year that they're interested in you, and they're telling you at the end of the season they're interested, guess what? They're not interested. They're pulling your
Mhm.
leg. Okay.
Yes.
If schools are saying
Mm.
we are offering you, that means they
Mhm.
really want you. Go where
Yeah.
you're wanted as opposed
Mhm.
to going where you think you want to go or where your
Mhm.
parents think you should go.
Mm.
Young man, young lady, go where you're wanted, because when you go where you're wanted, you are
Mm.
going to see a tremendous success rate in
Mm.
yourselves, not only as a basketball player, but as a student, athlete, and a young man and a young lady. So if you can
Mm.
do those things, you're well on your way to making a sound decision as to what school you want to go to.
Awesome. That is awesome. Man, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Straight from Randy Monroe, the former player, turned to a very experienced coach on every level, high school and college, Division two, Division one, head coach, assistant coach. Man, he's done it all. So for him to give you that wisdom and experience straight from his mouth, please take heed to it, listen to it, because it will pay dividends in your future and as you try to become a prospect and make those decisions for your future. It's been great, big fella. Thanks, man, for taking time to come on to TGBA and share your wisdom. And what we're trying to do here, man, is help families, man, and help their sons and their daughters, man, get to the next level. And if they are prospects or if they are athletes who are aspiring to do that, then man, we want to try to help them get there. And having
Absolutely.
people having people like you around makes it that much easier to share the wisdom and the knowledge so that they can understand how to do this thing, man. So again, thanks for coming on. And
My
man,
pleasure.
I wish you well, man. And we will be talking in the coming days, big fella.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Hey, man, the pleasure was all mine. Pleasure was all mine. Yes, sir. Pleasure's all
Thanks.
mine.